live coaching. For any of you who are here today, hello, 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 welcome. It's so good to see you guys. The purpose of today's live is to answer questions and to do some live coaching, get in the water with you. And so I'm going to start with sharing something real time that's happening here for me in my world. And as people are joining, I want you to feel free to pop in anything that's on top for you right now in your business where you're needing specific support around something, where you have a question. Maybe it's Substack related, maybe it's about summer activations, sales, maybe it's about your business model. I don't know. Whatever it might happen to be about, feel free to drop it in the chat. And I'm going to bring up some topics of things that are right on top right now, while I see if anybody has anything to share. So here's the real time. I just shared this on my Instagram stories, and I feel like it's relevant to bring here. My husband just started a business. It's called Ben Fixes Stuff, and he's a handyman. And he's doing really, really well. We were in Florida in March, and we had just like the clarity that it was something that he was ready to do, that felt like our family was ready for him to expand into this. And our son just turned 4 in March. So it just felt like, okay, people are potty trained, people are sleeping through the night. We're in this season of life where there's more spaciousness. And so Ben launched this business called Ben Fixes Stuff. And so if you're located here on the New Hampshire seacoast area, southern Maine to southern New Hampshire, he is like Wonder Woman, Superman. And he's going to people's houses and he's like painting decks and he's building things and he's installing. It's basically like the tagline is, because you don't want to do it. So like anything that you are just looking around in your house and you're like, I need someone to help me do that, but I don't know how. It's like a step above me pulling out a screwdriver. Ben is your guy. So what I've been noticing, I'm a business coach. So it's like a wonderful thing and also probably a challenging thing to live with me when you're launching a business. And I've just been noticing some personality changes. I've been noticing some stressors. I've been noticing things coming up for him. And I've just pointed it out and just said, hey, let's talk about it. And, he shared, I'm really enjoying it. And it's also harder than I expected it to be. And, there's like a little part of me that goes, I can't help myself. Okay. But the second part of me says, that's how it's supposed to work. So I guess if you're watching this right now, what I want you to hear me say is that if you are getting your booty kicked right now, launching your business, trying to grow your business, reinventing your business, resurrecting your business, wherever you are with your business in this moment, which I feel like a lot of us are, because the world is worlding in a way that we've never known before. And it's crashing on the shores of how we've done things, and it's challenging us to make some really fundamental psychological, philosophical decisions about how we want to do things going forward. And that is complex, right? So like there's nothing comfortable about growing in general. Like it's called growing pains for a reason, but also like as entrepreneurs. So his business is doing what businesses do, which is kicking his booty, and it's challenging him. And thus the trickle down effect of that is like, it's felt in our family right now. And so it's a topic of conversation, and a place where I'm leaning in and saying like, where do you need more support? And how do we want this to work? And like, let's look at the model and let's look at the bigger picture model. And like, these are all the conversations that we're going to be having, because this is how my brain works when it comes to business growth and business structure and business strategy and how these things all fit together. Because at the end of the day, and this is really the thing I said to him, like, it's just silly. It's silly to invite in quote unquote suffering. There's a difference, you guys, between discomfort and the growth edge of like the pain of growth and suffering. And I would also say that a lot of us are really wired for the latter because of maybe the way we grew up, the narrative and the stories that were told about money and about work growing up. I mean, I don't know. I'm actually curious, for those of you guys that are watching right now, did you have influences in your life of people who loved their work and who were really like engaged with the work, like the love of the game, and were grateful for what they made? Or did you primarily grow up with the messaging of, work sucks, like you work, then I don't know what it is. You retire, then you die. Like that whole narrative that a lot of us grew up hearing. Work wasn't necessarily something that was like lauded in my family. There were hobbies and there were sports and things that was like where you had fun, but we were always working, like work, 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 even in our daily life, like outside of work, it was just like a lot of work and it wasn't a positive experience. And here's the other thing. I mean, I can go on this whole tangent. I watched something this morning that talked about aging, and how those who live the longest or like stay the healthiest the longest are those who are like continuing to be engaged with life. And so they continue to use their bodies in new and dynamic ways. They continue to give themselves challenges. So I think that there's like this fine balance of the beauty of our businesses growing us and stretching us. And then there's this other further factor, this further like form, if you will, that is where like the pain kicks in a sort of destructive way. And the goal is to figure out how to regulate that and how to find your own center balancing point in that. And not just live in the riptide of getting just taken out to sea. Because the thing is I think that most of us, Gen X millennial people, that's really all we've known. And so it's really an easy button for us to push. And yeah, so Lori said, my grandparents really loved what they did. My parents, not quite as much. Yeah. And I think that there's this, okay, this is interesting. I'm just going to go there. I'm going to keep riffing on this, and please like chime in with questions or things that you want me to riff on, or you have thoughts about, or you're like, ooh, this is coming up. This is an interesting discussion. So I really believe that the boomer generation was sold this idea that there was a there. And that there, if you will, was like the good old days of like retirement, living like this middle class, upper middle class, like we're going to make it. And like, once we get there, or once we get the boat, or we get the nice cars in the driveway, or we live in the house with our, 2.5 kids and our, 4-bedroom household with a little bit of land and a pretty lawn and a nice garden. And, like this like American dream box set we were sold, on the backs of like, we survived. A lot of our parents were immigrants, or you were children of immigrants. Their parents, I mean, not our parents, but maybe our parents too. And so I think that growing up as like that next generation, there's still this like afterglow of that there's this ideal that there's going to be. And I see it so often, right? In terms of like what's being coached and sold on with the internet and online businesses, and then tools like Instagram and whatever. And it's this idea that like, I'm going to make it big and I'm going to get to those $10,000 months. And then I'm not going to have to worry about anything. And we're just going to be like printing money, and I'm going to be, it's like, it's confusing, but here's the thing. This is the most important part of this. And this is really what I leaned in with my husband on this morning. It was like, all of these things are invitations for us to have a very clear look at ourselves and what's going on for us, and where we stand in relationship to all of these things, and what our businesses are really about. And my belief about business is that it's an invitation for one to take radical personal responsibility for their life, for themselves, to get out of victim mode, to move out of victim consciousness entirely, and to get into creating their own economy and being able to make these decisions as a sovereign being, to operate financially in a capitalistic patriarchal model of the world with more personal real estate to live your life the way you want to live it, right? And I don't even mean that in like physical buildings, but I mean that in the way of like time freedom. It's really like having more choice in your life. I think that I'm allergic to this like protein shake that I was just drinking, you guys. I'm like itching. I was testing it one more time, which probably sounds like a hilarious thing. but I just keep striking out and trying to buy a new protein powder that I really like. I like more of a plant-based protein, and I just bought a new one and it's disgusting. I had my first shake with it and I hate it. And so I like this one that I have, but they must have changed the formulation because I get itchy when I drink it. Plant protein recommendations. Lori, I know you probably have some that taste really good or just are like very neutral. Help a girl out. Okay. So, yeah, what questions do you guys have happening in your business right now? What is something that you're needing help with? I'd love to just riff on some of these things in terms of things that I'm seeing, things that I am coaching my clients around. I mean, one of the biggest things that's happening in the work that I'm doing with my clients right now is like helping them navigate being a human and real life stuff in this moment while also having a business. I think like that is a very underrated topic that most people are not discussing. There's this like oversimplification thing that like, oh, okay, if I just like start my Substack, then everything's going to work. Like if I just go viral on Instagram, or if I get out of my own way and I start sharing or whatever. And it's like, yes. And there's always this gigantic all caps and with everything. And I think that like the level of nuance with that is so important. Okay. Truvani. I'll check that out. Thank you, Lori. I appreciate the level of nuance around business growth in this moment is so vast. And I feel like what I see so much is people talking about like things from just this little slice. You know, it's like a really fun story to be like, my husband launched a business and he's doing so great. And our family, you know, is making more money in the month and yay. And I get to spend more time with the kids, which is ultimately like what I wanted, and not have this feeling. I mean, this is real. This is real talk. I used to feel very often that like, because my husband, Ben, Ben wasn't working. He was doing podcast production, but he didn't have his own income source besides like what was happening in our company. And so he would do that. But like he was primarily with the kids, and Alex, our son, just turned 4 in March. And so that made sense for the season that we were in. And so then when we were in Florida in March, we made the conscious decision of like, he's going to launch this business. It's something he's been wanting to do. He's going to have fun with this. Then it's like the moments in the week when I was with the kids, I would feel, I feel like gross saying this out loud, but I would feel guilty sometimes being like, I should be working right now. I should be creating something right now. I should be like doing something in the business because like nobody's working right now. And so it created this like awareness of that, but also like I've been relaxing in my motherhood in a way that I did not realize that I wasn't. Talk about a confessional, right? I didn't know. And that's akin to this bigger conversation about, you know, this capitalistic society that we live in, the way money works. And so what I have learned in all of this is there's a place for both of us to do work that we really love. And in this moment, there is a place for us to respectively see more internal stuff that we get to work on, and we get to like bring that to the table to say like, oh, this is real for me. Like, what are your thoughts on this? And we get to work on this together. The problem is that my partner isn't really aware of what his stuff is until it's, I don't know. This is the other thing. I'm curious for those of you who are married to men. Like when you're an intuitive woman, person, female, feminine energy person who can feel like the shift in the wind, who can feel someone changing their mind in real time, can feel like an emotion as if it were your own. I would imagine that's difficult on both sides, you know, like it's difficult for me to be that person, but it's also difficult, I know, for my husband because he doesn't have the same perceptibility of himself. And so it's just this very like real time thing where I'm feeling something come up before he's consciously aware that it's coming up. And I have to be patient to allow him to let it come and not be like, you know, not letting him learn his own. I said something to my husband this morning about my son, where Ben will typically make him breakfast and like bring breakfast to him. And I was like, listen, we obviously need to feed our children in the morning, but I want them to recognize their own hunger cues. And we have finicky eaters in our house. And like, there are lots of worlds and philosophies about this of like, you cook and you put it down, blah, blah. But there's also this part of like, he resists it because he's like, I don't feel hungry yet. This is my son. And so he gets mad because he's like, you're like forcing stuff on me. I'm like, fair. So in my case, I'm trying to allow my husband to perceive his own feelings and allow them to come forward without like jumping in and being like, hey, you're acting weird. What's going on? Because trust me, like I'm really good at that. And pinpointing it, it's because of this reason, because of this. Oh, I just realized why. Yeah, okay, I'll have to circle back on that. There's like a big date that just passed and we did not acknowledge it. And that's real. Okay. Ooh, that put a lump in my throat. That's why. And he doesn't even know it. So we get to talk about that. Okay. I know, Brie, isn't it? It's so fascinating. I could do a whole talk just about all of that. Anyway, I feel like I'm all over the place. I'm going to read what you guys are talking about right now. Yeah, Brie. I implemented Me Monday, cultivating the source of everything I create, and feeling confronted with the productivity, needing it to do something. Yes, exactly. And so then, okay, like all of these things are opportunities to then literally look at the attributions that we have about why we do anything, about why things are right. It's like, why do I feel like that? I had this big breakthrough over the weekend where I realized that like people in my life, i.e. family members, friends, whatever, like they're sovereign beings. And as sovereign as I know them to be, so am I. It seems so silly to say that, but so am I. And I can just literally let them be them. And I can let me be me. And I can honor what works for me and I can honor what works for them. And these two things can be different. How cool. How cool that we don't have to conform. How cool that we don't need to make somebody else's way of being incorrect because it's different from mine. You know? And so these are really fun lanes to play in because it just creates more range, like more of our capacity becomes available to us, I think, in these spaces. And what it does is it just helps you realize in a deeper way that like there are no rules. There is no universal right way to do things. But do you see why that's also challenging? Because then what it does is it puts the onus back on us as individuals to take radical personal responsibility for how we're showing up or not, how we're not showing up, right? It's like, okay, cool. And it goes round and round. Sierra, in the transition from working to a job to building my own business. Oh, good for you. Doing ancestral clearings. And I want, I'm scared to take the leap financially. My work and commute are very draining. Yeah. And you know what, sometimes what happens, like I have a client recently where a really, really big life situation just occurred. And it was something that ultimately she was going to make a decision about. And then it got like handed to her, quite literally. And I think that's how it works. So I remember when I was in that same position, when I was just like in the back and forth, the universe was like, here you go. I'm going to help you make the decision, you know? And so it's not necessarily a bad thing. Honestly, it's like a blessing in a lot of ways. But any way you slice it, like if you are living an honest life and walking the path of that truth, a path will be cleared. Bree, would love to get curious on how that helps me allow me to be in my business Tuesday to Thursday. Curious on what questions I might want to consider and thoughts on releasing the hard work equals value equals money equals safety. Yeah, well, I think the thing is, and this is something I've been saying to a client right now who is pregnant due in December, has a 17-month-old and enormous, like extreme high levels of morning sickness. Like, let's all say a little prayer for her because, oh my gosh, this poor lady, she's going through it. I said to her, and I believe this is true for our businesses too. If you're not okay, your baby's not okay. Like, your kids are not, like, when mom's not okay, our kids are not okay. Yeah, I just literally walked back in the house at my husband in my conversation this morning, and it was like kind of a tense conversation. It was not like a kumbaya, my Lord, happy-go-lucky kind of conversation. It was a little spirited, mostly from my side, not from my husband's side. But I walked back in the house and my daughter was in there, and she's on summer vacation, and like part of our protocol each day with her is helping her make a list of things that she needs to do in the day so that she can mind her time and make sure she's doing those things. And I said to her, because she has her own business as well, she's an entrepreneur. She makes hobby horses. I don't know if you guys have ever heard, they're like the stick horses. She like hand makes them. She's super, super talented. She has an Etsy shop called Seaside Hobby Horses, if you want to follow her on Etsy. And she is like listing one she just made, and we're like working on all of that. But I said to her, hey, the thing about our businesses is that they are here to grow us. And we don't get to escape that. And she was like, I know. And I said, so like, that's what Dad and I were talking about this morning. And that, as you know, that growth is uncomfortable. And honestly, the greatest threat to our enjoyment and our fulfillment in life is our comfort. Like, your body is not going to, like, your muscles are not going to grow without discomfort, without like the pain of growth. And you can reframe the discomfort. You can reframe pain as being a positive experience. I really learned how to do that as a former Division I athlete. It was like, oh, this is hurting. That's a new edge. It also has a double-edged sword effect, which is a whole nother conversation. But that's the truth. Like, that is the truth of truths. And so anyway, I'm coming back to you, Bree. You giving yourself the space and time for play and curiosity and curation, because I think that's really what that is, and restoration is what makes you who you are on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And it's an integral part of it. Like, if I'm not listening to Noah Kahn, driving with the windows down, crying to Orbiter on the way to my soccer game last night, I'm not showing up for you in the most honest way that I possibly can today. Oddly specific and accurate. If I am not expressing like the space for utmost joy in the in-betweens, going for my walks, talking to my besties on Voxer, and I'm like in this feeling of being sort of like creatively blocked up, then I'm not able to then bring the best parts of myself forward. If like the tension in my marriage is not resolved, or at least like addressed and met head on, and it's like really what it comes down to is being honest, like living an honest life. And the more honest we are with ourselves, because at the end of the day, guys, like it's you and you. The more honest I am with myself, the more fulfilled, abundant, real, free I feel in the rest of my life. So I think those Mondays are really important, and you get to work that equation back to be like, what is my definition of safety in relationship to money, in relationship to the value that I'm offering, in relationship to how I'm working, and how do I want to revise and retool that equation? What else? Any other reflections, thoughts, things you want to turn over today in the mix? You know what I'm going to do while I'm waiting to see if anybody's in? One of my books, I co-wrote this book with Adria Peters, and it's called Quantum Wealth, Factoring in Abundance. I've written a bunch of books: Master Your Money Mind, Paddle Home, Little Big Beautiful Things. I'm going to just flip open to a page. So just to give you a look, like this is what the book, it's an art book, and there's passages about words. It's like words. I'm going to pull a word for us today from Quantum Wealth. Let's see what we got. Okay. So here's the cover: Quantum Wealth, Factoring in Abundance. Isn't it beautiful? May you thrive beyond your wildest imagining. Okay, let's get a word. Okay, number 29, purpose. Money is a byproduct of living in and on purpose. A purpose is not to make money. Purpose is an ever-evolving commitment. It's not a one-time event. It's not a trophy or a prize to be won. It's a feeling, a way, a path. Everything needs a why. Constantly check in with yourself and ask, why am I doing this? What's the point? And you are home free. Going back to what I said to Ben earlier, I love that we have these businesses, but if we are out of balance, out of sync as a family, when life design and living our life as like an art form and making it our masterpiece, if that gets too tweaked, then what is the actual point? What is the actual point? Money? Like, is the point money? There's a bigger point than money. Money is an effect. We are cause. Our connection to people and helping people is the cause. Other people's problems, other people's challenges is the cause. Being able to be at cause, right, creates effect. And of course, there are all these other little elements that we get to tweak inside of it. And that's the beauty of having a business, because a business is here to help us grow. It's here to move humanity forward, because when you change, when you take radical personal responsibility for what's going on inside of you, what's true in you, where you feel like you want to hide away or whatever, it's like bringing that version of you out into the light, inviting you out into being seen and true and full presence is what changes us. And so it's all connected. It's all really beautiful. And I think entrepreneurship is such a sacred path. And I'm just inspired by those who have chosen it, because there are no guardrails, these are all decisions that you're making yourself, and you're fully exposed when you're doing it, and you don't have anyone to lean back on. You don't have a supervisor to go to. It's why coaching is the best, because you get to have someone to check in with and be like, ooh, and I love being that person for my clients. I love being there to like turn things over with them, to know them intimately, to walk with them, to be kind of like a touchstone that they can come back to for support and for reminders about who they really are and what the point is and why they're doing it, and to ask them these really deep questions. It's such a privilege. It's such an honor to get to hold that position with people. So if you are seeking business coaching in this season, you're looking for support and having essentially like a team member to add into the mix for the next 6 months, you can apply for coaching at, I'll put the link in here. I think that if you're watching on mobile, you will have to go you'll have to type it in. So it's amberlilyestrom.com/breakthrough. You can go to my website and click on coaching or work with me, and it'll take you to a page to learn how to do that and how to apply. I have an opening in July. So now would be the time to apply so we can get started in July. And I also do intensive. So if that's something you're like, I'm not sure I'm ready for a full-on 6-month coaching experience, I do intensives. They are essentially 2 60-minute sessions that we can space out. We focus a lot in the first one around like money consciousness and what's going on in modeling. And then the second one, we really implement strategy and helping you figure out how to take all of that and like move that forward in your business in this next back half of the year. So you can just go to my website, amberlilyestrom.com, to check that out, to apply for those things and get some support. Lori, how do you navigate personal growth through your business when you are the one changing drastically and your partner stays the same? Feel like it widens the gap of absolutely everything in the relationship. Okay, just gonna breathe that in with you for a minute. Need some electrolytes for that one. Yes, you are correct. It does feel like it widens the gap of absolutely everything in the relationship. And the way that I think about it metaphorically, and the way that I talk about this with my clients and also with my own partner, who honestly like kind of had to build a business, like, because we're continuing to grow as individuals. And I've been the breadwinner for the last 12 years. And it was just getting a little boring, honestly. Like, that's like, what are you into? What are you interested in? Like, what do you want to, how do you want to do this? You know, like financially we're good. It's not about the money, but it's about you being activated. And so I'm enjoying this moment where things are feeling intense because I'm like, this is growth, because you don't have growth without intensity, right? Can't birth a new version of self without having the contractions in order to do that and to bring that version of self into being. It's just the facts, you know? So anything that we want is going to have that discomfort and that tension in it, but that's confirmation that growth is happening. So the tricky part when we're in partnership is this piece of like, when we start to get like we have these ultimatums, because it's that honestly often causes the person to do the opposite, which is like to dig their heels in more, depending on their personality, of course, and the dynamics of the relationship. But I think that I say it like this. This is a really awesome metaphor. I feel like we're on the tennis court and like I want to volley with you. I want to play tennis with you. You're my partner. I want you to return the ball. But it feels like, right? This is a great metaphor to like get this into people's brains visually. It feels like I'm on the court holding my racket, bouncing the ball, being like, you ready? And you're just like sitting over there on the bench. And you're like, I don't want to play. And it's like, I thought that we signed up to play together. Is there a different game you want to play? Is there a different way you want to do this? But like that metaphor of like being able to return the serve, being able to return the ball. We're not talking like Serena Williams level serves. We're just talking about like, I just want to volley. That works as a really powerful visual to say like, where can we volley? Like, where can we kick the ball back and forth? Because the thing is, you guys, and I'm just learning this more and more and more as I'm getting older. You know, like I said this to my husband the other day, you know, the versions of us that we were in our 20s is not the same as the versions of us that we were in our 30s with one child, going through all the things we were going through, building my business, building this business out, the family business that supported us to get to here. The versions of us that we are in our mid 40s, hello, I'm going to be 45 this year, are absolutely not the same, even as we were at 40 and 41. And I know all of my friends who are aging with me here, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And so it's sort of like, okay, well, what are we dreaming forward into? And what do we want the rest of our life to look like? And of course, that's such a grand question to be like, what do I want the rest of my life to look like? But it's like, okay, well, what do I want the next 5 years to look like? How do I want to feel over these next 5 years of my life? And, you know, I'm not a 5-year planner at all. But it's a powerful question to ask, especially when you have kids. Like, how do we want to feel the summer that Alex is 9? How do we want to feel the summer that Ani is 17? Y'all, like my daughter has her own vehicle, driving, God willing, you know, that all these things come to pass. But like 9 and 17, that does something different in your system, you know? So I ask this to you because that's such a good question. Like, what happens when you're growing and your partner seems like they're just hanging out? To me, creating a lot of spaciousness for truth to live an honest life is really truly like the fertilizer in the soil so the seed can grow. And we all have different relationships with truth. But I don't think you can live a fulfilled life without being honest. I see a lot of people who are out there like creating all these things, you know, maintaining, growing. And I'm just like, well, if you just told the truth about the pain that you feel, maybe you wouldn't have to do all of that. You know, and for me, I just want to I have a very simple business model. I have a simple way of doing life, because what that does is it frees up a lot of inner, it's like mental equity. Like it frees up a lot of space for me creatively. And then also in the things that I want to invest in the most right now, which is and are relationships. This weekend, it was my nephew's 9th birthday, and we went to the local amusement park. We have this like super cute park here in New Hampshire. It's called Canopy Lake Park. And I've been going since I was, I don't know, probably 9, 8, 9 years old. And so it's like so amazing to go back on these same roller coasters and these same rides and like take my kids and my nephews. And it's just like so idyllic. And one of my favorite things about Canopy is that they have not done the like sort of stratified fast pass, like all this stuff. You just get in line. You just literally, if you want to go on the Yankee Cannonball, which is like the big old roller coaster, which is an amazing roller coaster, by the way, you just get in line. And I'm obsessed with that. It was funny. My daughter was like crashing out. Like, I don't want to wait. And I was like, girl, stop. And so I set my timer and I was like, how long do you think that we're going to be in this line? This is so funny. We were in line for a total of 16 minutes. We were at the bottom of the hill, and then all of a sudden, like of the little ramp thing to go up, all of a sudden someone up at top goes, how many people are in your group? And it was just me and my daughter. And there were all these groups of people before us, and they were like, come on up. So then we just like jumped the whole line. I was like, do you see how the second that you just relaxed about the time and stopped being grippy about how long it was taking, you literally just got to leapfrog the entire line. Like, when does that ever happen? It was a cool moment. So we're at this park and we're on these rides. My parents were there, my brother, my sister-in-law, my kids, my husband and I. And I was just, I probably like broke down into tears like multiple times. I was just soaking it in. It's so everything, I just think about how like this moment right now that I'm in is the one that I will look back on. Like, I will look back at these pictures. I will look back on, remember that mom was on the merry-go-round and dad was there and it's like, everybody's here right now. So like when people say, what are you focused on right now? Building a business with a surgical level of precision and artfulness that works with my life so that I have a lot of space and time for my life. I work 3 days a week from like 10 to 3:30. And the rest of it, I'm with my people. I go on walks every day. And when I'm on my walks, I actually recorded a podcast about this today. So if you want to check it out, my podcast is called Homeward. That's the link to like the webpage, but you can just search it up. And I talk specifically about my content strategy, like how I think about content, how I think about my creative operating system, how Substack, how everything works into this mix, and how I do that as a person who has a full client roster and a really full life, and like all of the decisions that I've made specifically to build my business in this way and why. So today's podcast is all about that. And it's actually really funny because on the podcast, I record my podcast while I'm walking outside. All of these things like went wrong while I was recording. It's like hilarious. I got caught in like a rainstorm. It's all in there. So you can check that out today, and that might be useful for you too, Brie, of what you're asking. So my thoughts on consistency in social media, I'm currently deciding what that means for me in my business. I love how you asked that question. I'm deciding what that means for me. So I don't like a lot of rules, bottom line, in business. Like I just think it's like limiting for me. I don't even like to tell myself what to do. Is that ridiculous? And there is a need for me to make commitments to the things that are important to me. And so in order to honor my commitments, I have to show up for it, right? Actually, there's this is actually a really interesting take from this book. Okay, this is going to take us in a different direction, but I just want to read this to you guys. So those of you that just joined, I read from this book that I co-wrote with Adria Peters called Quantum Wealth, Factoring in Abundance. And in it we have, I think it's like 44 words. And yeah, so this is debt. And I love this. Debt. Debt is not a bad thing. It helps us expand our lives. It's a gift. Debt is an exchange. When we are indebted to others, they hold the power. The balance is tipped in their favor. When we clear our debt, we restore our power. May we let debt be a mirror for our commitments. I love that sentence. That phrase, be a mirror for our commitment. So I wonder for you with marketing, I'm just going to use this word because a lot of people in my community have a hard time with the word marketing. It's like, I love what I do. I love my work. I love coaching people, but I don't like marketing. And I just want to say to you that like marketing in and of itself is just an extension of what it is that you do in a different form. But it doesn't even have to be. It's like, how can you make your content creation and what you're doing match how you serve? I always say this to my coaches. If you're not yapping somewhere, and I feel like that word, okay, talking on the internet somewhere. P.S. I'm a huge fan of the whole yap challenge thing. I think it's awesome. I think it's great. No shade there whatsoever. But what I want you guys to hear me say is like, if you're trying to sell coaching with you and then the people that are in your community never get to hear you talk, never get to have time seeing you on camera and feeling that connection with you, that's something to change. That's important because it's the trust building factor of that is really important. Okay. They need to hear you. They need to hear you as a human in real time for that trust building. So mirror for your commitments. How are you helping people? And if you start to think about everyone in your community, whether they've hit follow, they subscribed, they're listening on the podcast, as someone who's already vested, they subscribe to your Substack, they're a paid subscriber on your Substack, whatever, as someone who's already vested and committed and like in your community at large, like in the pipeline, as we say in business, if you start to think about it like that and just showing up to be in relationship with those people, it's social media and content and all that. It just like it shape shifts. And so I just think about like, what do I need to help with today? Like I'm in relationship with my community. I'm in relationship with the people that follow me and are subscribed. And I want to show up for them. So how am I doing that this week? What does that look like? That's philosophical, but then it helps you then sort of bring that down in a more granular form for the physical way that you're going to be doing that in the day-to-day, week-to-week. Great question. Thank you, Bree. Anyone else before we wrap? I want to land this plane here. Man, it goes by so fast. I love getting to talk to you guys here and riff here. I love this platform so much. If you are watching this and you are interested in joining the Signal, that is my paid subscribership. This is where I'm showing up for live coaching like this. It is where I will have longer posts. I have 2 right now that are up that are that have prompts in them that bring you through process. One is how to find your edge specifically in what you're doing in your business right now, and how to figure out how to talk about what it is that you do, that I think is something people really struggle with. We're often quite confused about how to find the words to talk about what we do. The second piece that I have is a 3-part process to help you future-proof your business, and really like looking at the granular process of what it is that you do and how you help people. And so more of that, please. There's just a lot more of that coming on the Substack platform. I love the long form ability. I love teaching, and part of the Signal also, this is probably the piece a lot of people come from, but there's a whole training series on how to launch your Substack as your creative operating system, how to think about Substack in the context of your business, how to utilize it for things like live challenges and experiences. It is unparalleled. It's a multimedia platform. It is awesome. I love it here. So thanks for joining me here on Substack. All right, friends, I appreciate you. I'm going to put a pin in it here. Again, if you're interested in learning more about coaching and diving deep, head over to my website, amberlilyestrom.com. Everything is over there. And yeah, sending you big love. Oh, yay, Sierra. It's a pretty great place to be. Okay. Cheers, cheers, friends. Much love. Have a beautiful week, and I will see you next time. Bye, friends.